Welcome back, everyone, to another week of Just Jossing. I'm one of your hosts, Sabrina Hannon.
And I'm the other host, Jasmine Herron. This week, we are back in the City of Angels with Season 1, Episode 7 of Angel, The Bachelor Party.
This one, thankfully, is much better than, what was it, Sense and Sensitivity?
Yep.
And this is a Doyle episode. So we get to learn a lot more about Doyle or Francis. Do you have any fun facts or are we just diving in?
Well, the only one I've got is about Richard. Do you have the same fun fact?
Yep.
Why don't you tell it?
So Richard, you might be like, he looks pretty stinking familiar. And that's because we've seen him in Los Angeles before, but not on this show, on Buffy. And he was in Anne, where Buffy had run away to Los Angeles and had assumed the alias of Anne. And he was Ken, the demon that was like taking street people into a hell dimension and using them as slaves. So this is Carlos Jacket. I don't know how to say his last name.
Jacket or Jacot?
Yes. We'll go with the fancier sounding one. So he's back. Like, do we know if he is the same demon?
He's not.
I didn't think so. But yeah, same place, same face, except when he's in demon form, different demon person. So, and then if you recognize the woman who plays Harry, where I recognized her from was Dexter, the serial killing. She plays a detective. But when this episode starts, we're right at Angel Investigations. Angel and Doyle are hanging out. Angel's just trying to read, and Doyle's like, let's go have fun, man. You know, the conversation they have all of the time.
Yep.
And he really doesn't want to go. But one of the reasons Doyle's really pushing, it seems, to go out is because Cordelia is going out on a date with a very rich man. Yes. And when this guy comes to pick Cordelia up, and Cordelia looks lovely. He comes in and Angel does the whole dad routine. But Cordelia says, like, if I don't come back in the morning, just clear out my desk, I'm on to a better life.
Yep.
Which, don't say that, because if you're murdered, no one's coming to look for you.
Yep. Also, like, I want to say that this is one of those times where, like, Cordelia really claims her sexuality because they're like, how late are you going to be? And she specifically says, don't wait up. Like, I'm planning on doing something with this guy. And I personally think that's great. Like, it is great to have in your mind. Obviously, it can change, but it's great to have in your mind if you want to have a hookup that night. Like,
yeah, and I mean, also, even if she doesn't plan on hooking up with him, just telling them, like, don't wait up, it's none of their damn business.
Yeah. Yep.
None of their damn business. And I mean, with Angel, I mean, she's kind of, if he wanted to, he could just like stalk along the rooftops, but thankfully he has better things to do with his time.
But and Pierce turns out to be super boring.
Oh yeah. So after Cordelia and Pierce leave, they go back and Doyle's like, woe is me. Cordelia's never going to be interested in me because, like, I can't provide that kind of lifestyle. Yep. And he picks up Angel's book and out pops a picture of Buffy, like this beautiful headshot in black and white. And I forget exactly what it is he says, but he basically comments on how beautiful she is, not realizing that it's Buffy, but then I can tell by Angel's face that that's who it is. And he apologizes.
He asks if she would go for someone with an Irish accent, which Angel, when he was supposed to be Angelus, was supposed to have this like terrible, or wasn't supposed to have a terrible Irish accent, but he did have a terrible Irish accent.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that little kind of side joke. But you go for someone with an Irish accent, then he realizes it's Buffy, tries to remove his foot from his mouth, and you know, tries to apologize, but then he has a vision,
Mm-hmm.
and the vision is a guy being attacked by like a horde of vampires. And he makes a sound. He says, "Everyone has dinner plans but me."
Yep. Yep. I love that. That line.
Essentially, next week we're going to talk about pangs.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was thinking about like the sad little Spike watching the vampires all have dinner together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Pangs, like, they do really great transitions between characters in scenes. But yeah, so they do the whole credits, and then we open up and Cordelia is trying not to fall asleep as this man bores her to death. He's a traitor, and he's talking about like the price of beans, literally.
Yep.
And selling something for like, I don't know, $1.125 cents or something.
It was 6 cents and then 1/8 of a cent. Could you imagine anything more exciting? And to the girl who's had to been dealing with demons lately.
Yes. And so we flash to then Doyle and Angel fighting off the trove of vampires, who are clearly doing something far more exciting. Yep. And they save the dude. They think they got all the vamps. Angel goes to take the guy home or to get medical attention, whatever it is, and tells Doyle, just go back to the office. I got it. And
there is a quick scene there where Doyle flashes into his demon form, yes, which is like a green and spiky kind of demon, and he shakes it off. He goes back into human form, and Angel questions him on it. He says, "Why do you refuse to fight in your demon form? You're stronger in that form than you are as a human." And Doyle says it's not his style. He kind of brushes it off. He seems very ashamed of his demon side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know, like, when Cordelia's around, he doesn't want her to know that he's part demon. So it makes sense for him not to demon out then. But she's not here now. She's off and about. So there is a vampire who is lurking, and he's a big dude. And he follows Doyle all the way back. Although the way that they have him follow, like how they shoot the scene when they get to Angel Investigations. Doyle comes around the corner at the far side from the camera. They have it so that the vampire is on the corner that is closest to us, which sounds like a really terrible way to follow someone, because basically he would have to psychically guess where Doyle was going. It's bizarre. Like, it's always bothered me, that part. Maybe I'm the only one.
No. Although I was wondering if maybe like the vampires have already let the word out that like Angel Investigations is a thing. And so like maybe he was just trying to get ahead of Doyle to stalk Doyle. He already knew where Doyle was going.
Maybe. And as soon as Doyle goes in, up pull Cordelia and Pierce. She has called it an early night. And she's like, well, he asks, why are you having me drop you off here? And she said, well, my car is here, that's why. And he's like, oh, well, let me walk you to your car. It's like she's trying to get rid of him at this point. And he's like, yeah, it's been nice. Shove off. And out comes the vamp dude. And what does Pierce do? Pushes Cordelia basically at him and runs, gets in his car, and drives away.
Yep, uses Cordelia as a meat shield.
Yes.
and shrieks.
Yes.
Like a very womanly, almost a Wesley shriek.
Yes.
And and so Doyle comes out, and he's got a crossbow. And we've had conversations before about crossbows. And he only has the one bolt in the crossbow, and the guy is struggling with Cordelia, and he's also using Cordelia as a shield. Poor Cordelia being used as a shield. So he then aims the bolt at the guy's foot so that the guy drops Cordelia. But now Doyle doesn't have a weapon, and he still refuses to demon out. So he gets into a scuffle with the vamp in human form, and he's getting thrashed by this vampire.
I mean, he still manages to, so the vampire rips the bolt from his foot, and Doyle is able to grab that and stake him, but it's a very close call. Also Doyle, because it comes up in a scene later, when he first comes out, he's holding the crossbow, he says, like, basically to let Cordelia go, like, you came here for me. And he will reenact this little scene later, which usually, like, if we have a heroic moment, we might reenact them in our heads, but no, Doyle does it live and in person to his imaginary friends. And Cordelia, though, back to the moment where it's happening, is like, she's looking at Doyle differently now. And she was like, that was really brave. And Doyle is just like, can you not say that, like, so disbelievingly? Is that a word, disbelievingly? It is now. This is a big turning point for how Cordelia views Doyle.
And it's also, I think, we've experienced, as she talks later, about a turning point in how she views men in general. So, you know, he has managed to stake it. He immediately asks if she's okay. So Cordelia is talking with Angel the next day, and she's talking about how boring Pierce was, and how she thought that, you know, he would throw a shoe at a demon and then run away, and the shoe was too generous. Like, instead he threw her at the demon and ran away. And yeah. I have to say, watching this growing up also changed my perception of what I was looking for in a partner. Like, I didn't want, you know, the boring partner. I wanted the one that was going to captivate me mentally and would be selfless and, you know, look out for others around them. And so, you know, the fact that she's blaming Angel, but I was like, yeah, like, you don't need, like, the flashy guy. You need the guy that has the substance underneath.
And I would argue that Pierce guy was not flashy.
No, he just had money.
Yeah.
Money and car. But I mean, look, to be honest, like, I think Doyle's cute. Like,
yeah, I think Doyle's really cute. Like, when that actor was on Roseanne, he was super cute then. He was always super cute. He's always on Roseanne, he was cast as, like, the cute boy, like that lured the bad boy that, like, lured the goody two shoes girl into basically getting married and running away and whatnot. So to see him, because he looks the same, and they just don't have a leather jacket on him and maybe some guy liner, but I mean, he looks the same, and now he has his Irish accent, which adds to the hotness. Like, how would you not just be like, a swoon?
Yep. So, but Cordelia says that she is going to go talk to Doyle, and then witnesses his awkward, dorky reenactment.
It's weird when you're cosplaying yourself. Yeah, so she is a little bit awkward. She tells Angel, I think, that she's going to get Doyle a coffee, basically, for saving her life. But as soon as she starts conversing with Doyle, in walks a woman who knows Francis, Francis being Doyle,
Alan Francis Doyle. So she's calling him by his middle name.
which is an Irish thing.
Yes.
You go by your middle name.
Well, it's also a Southern thing because that's what my husband does.
Yeah.
And
But,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a big Gaelic tradition. So, and being that Doyle is from Ireland makes a lot of sense. So it is unearthed fairly quickly that this attractive woman who has showed up is his wife, not ex, current wife, but they have not seen each other in a long time. And like Cordelia's face just falls.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now a fly in her ointment.
Well, so, she immediately says to Angel, Angel walks in and she's like, meet Doyle's wife. Like, and she's expecting Angel to be like, wife? Oh my goodness. And instead he just kind of walks over and he's like, hi, nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
Playing it very cool, Angel. Very cool.
And Angel's a really good friend in this whole scene because like he goes and says that like Angel Investigations is his operation and that Cordelia and Angel work for him, even though it's called Angel Investigations.
Yep.
But
Angel's
he
nudges Cordelia to like stop her from saying something because he's got Doyle's back. Like,
yep. Yeah, he's a good friend.
Which again, it's surprising because this is not the sort of thing you would really see from Angel and Buffy.
Yeah. Yeah, he wouldn't necessarily get that because he hasn't had, up until Buffy and like the Scoobies, he didn't have real human interaction for a significant amount of time.
Yep.
So like it's not like he's Spike with all the references and watching television to be able to know what's going on in the world.
Yep. And so they've barely been talking for like 2 minutes. And this guy, Richard, pops his head in and is like, blah, 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 the wedding. Like, when did he think that Harry had a chance to talk to Doyle about, she's met someone else? Like, there was no time frame in between. He just shows up and is like, hey, me and Harry are getting married in a couple of days. And
mm-hmm. Yep. Which I'm pretty sure they would need longer for the divorce papers to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But anyway, it comes about that she asks him to like go, she's got this, and Angel grabs Cordelia and they're out as well. And Doyle thinks that she has come here to tell him this, to rub his face in it, and she's come for him to sign divorce papers.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I need time for my people to look over this so I know I'm not buying an ostrich farm. Mm-hmm. Which he's not wrong. Like, do not sign legal documents without looking them over, without having a lawyer look them over, especially if he's now told her that he owns an investigation service.
We did miss out that when Richard walks in, he assumes that Angel is Doyle. He's like, oh, Doyle, you're so, so attractive. Harry never mentioned that. And then he looks at Doyle and he goes, oh, that's more like it.
Which I don't get, because Doyle is far more attractive than Richard.
Yep.
Far more attractive.
But also, like, ouch, what a put down to be like, oh, yeah, I guess it makes sense. Like,
Richard's whole thing has always screamed to me like the nice guy act. Like, there's like what you said, like there's no way that he didn't know that there wasn't enough time for Harry to tell Doyle. There's no way that he wouldn't have known that. And then this put down, like, and it's constant almost with him, these little like clips. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you're not a secure man, sir.
Which, so afterwards, Doyle is talking with Angel, and Angel offers him alcohol, and Doyle's like, Harry's probably right. Drinking's not good for me. and he explains that like when he and Harry got together and got married, he didn't know he was a demon.
Mhm.
Like his mother had never told him.
It didn't
And
present until he was 21.
yep. And so all of a sudden, he who's madly in love with this woman, realizes that he's a demon. He's got this part to him. They're talking about having kids, and he has now realized that he's got this genetic predisposition to something that, as he puts it, put a damper on the conversation.
Mhm.
And he does mention that when you're at that age, you don't just lightly break up. You kind of tear into each other. And I think we saw this with Buffy and Angel in the sewers when Buffy like dramatically was, yelling at Angel and angry with Angel. And Angel, who of course is 240 years old, was trying to be more calm and be more, logical about it. But when you're younger, you're more passionate. And
Angel also chose like the worst time possible to do any of that.
oh, he absolutely did. In the sewers right before prom, he was an idiot. But
Yeah. Like he couldn't wait until these big moments in her life were over so she could enjoy these little bits of normalcy. I'm still angry with Angel for that, clearly. But yeah, we see that in all of the relationships, really, with the exception with Willow and Oz. When they're actually breaking up, you don't see it because Oz is leaving.
Yep.
But when she finds Oz and Veruca together,
yep.
words are. But also, I think you could be almost any age, and you're going to say like some tart things in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, and I think it can be difficult, especially when you really love someone, if you find that there is an incompatibility to your future,
Mm-hmm.
to say, calmly, we have an incompatibility to our future, we should end things. You're going to turn vicious, both to protect yourself and almost to make it easier for the other person.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, I don't know if it's like an American thing or not, or like a Western world thing. It's so much harder to end a relationship where there's not something glaringly wrong. Like if there's it's just getting so dark now. If there's not something glaringly wrong, if everything, but like even if there's something where there's like no spark or something, but like they're a good person, it's not there.
Yep.
But so yeah, Doyle says, that things were said, but that, he comes to the point where he feels like Harry deserves happiness and he couldn't give that to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he says basically he feels that there's something off about Richard, and Angel offers to do some investigating, but on the down low.
Mm-hmm.
Which he doesn't do a very good job of the DL, because crashing through a window does not make you stealthy.
Yep. Well, okay, so he says he's doing it on the DL, and he's watching, and he sees some kind of suspicious stuff. Not real, like, Richard meets somebody out in a car and gets a package and sticks it in a fridge, and then he's watching through the window at this restaurant, where Harry and Richard like come in together, and he's got a surprise for her, and then he takes a drink of wine and demon faces, and then picks up a knife and is like, coming, hun bun. Which, okay, like if I'm watching this situation and I'm not in the know, I too am going to think he's about to stab her and eat her because he's a demon. But of course, we then quickly learn that Harry knows that he's a demon, and she's like, "Oh, my poor baby! Like, poor Richard, are you okay?"
Yeah, she's a demonologist now. Like she's up on all of the things, well, she thinks she's up on all of the things. And he was coming over with a knife. She just brought in a bunch of packages, which you don't really see this anymore, with where when you go shopping, they tie your packages together. Like you would see that in movies in like the 1950s, but you don't see that now really.
Yeah.
But he was coming to cut them apart so she could open the lingerie that she had purchased.
But yeah, so he's surprised because he's like, well, Doyle made it seem, Angel surprised. He's like, Doyle made it seem, she's like, yeah, like I freaked. When I found out he was a demon, I freaked. But then I got over it and I got interested academically, but Doyle could not accept who he was. And so he was just angry and drinking and, couldn't. I had vibes for parts of this episode. Because when I was in my 20s, I learned that I had a genetic disorder that would be passed on to kids. And so had to have a discussion with my partner at the time, and we still ended up getting married, about not having kids. But there was a lot of resentment and self-hatred and anger at discovering that like this plan that you thought you had, or what you expected as to being a normal human being, is changed. And so like seeing this thing with Doyle made me be like, oh, Doyle, like I understand and I feel for Doyle.
Little did you know you were being prepared as a teenager.
Yeah. So, but yeah, during this rewatch, I kept like having like, when he was talking about, oh, we were thinking about having kids and should we pass this on to children, sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, I've had that conversation. And, oh, it didn't show up until my 20s. And I'm like, I had that experience too.
Yeah. When rewatching this as well, I thought of you, especially as soon as he said about it showing up in his 20s. I was just like, oh, well, this will be an interesting conversation with Jasmine.
But poor Doyle, and then like the anger of having to process the sudden change in life obviously turned him towards alcoholism. Thankfully, I did not turn towards alcoholism or grow random spikes. But
yes, or turn green and blue when you sneeze.
That's true. That is true.
That's a lot of color corrector.
Yeah.
So Angel, goes back and reports this to Doyle, and it's at this point that Doyle realizes like it was him that ended she didn't leave him because of the demon in him. She left him because of the man, which is a much harder pill, I think, to swallow.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't so much the man, it was the man's reaction to the demon.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't saying, oh, you have this, and I'm again making this analogy, oh, you have this disability, I'm leaving you because of your disability. She was leaving because of the person that he became upon learning of his disability. And his reaction to it. And
because we a little bit later on, we find out like what Doyle's life really used to be like, and it's like Cordelia is floored.
So he signs the papers, and then Harry and Richard show up, and while they're making photocopies, Cordelia and Harry, Richard asks Doyle to please come to the bachelor party. He is asking for Doyle's blessing on the marriage. It would mean a lot to him. And then Harry says, I don't really know anybody who's not a demon in LA. Cordelia, will you come to my bachelorette party?
Yeah, I think they call it a shower though, because I don't think bachelorette parties are really a thing yet. Especially considering that it's all of Richard's older female family members.
Yep.
And Cordelia agrees as well. I find it really weird that Richard invites, like, even if I'm someone who very much so likes everyone to like get along and extend olive branches and all that. You're just being cruel at that point because it's so fresh. Like the divorce papers are being like scanned right now.
Yep.
No.
But apparently it's traditional to receive the blessing of the first husband, and it's very important to them. They're all about good vibes. And
toxic good vibes in this case.
yeah. So the family is like around the dinner table and they're talking
and this is Richard's family.
Richard's family, yep.
No
and
Harry.
And they're going, discussing food for the party, and like the guys are like, ha ha ha, we're gonna get a stripper, or like the mom is like, don't forget the stripper, and like, oh, like I don't know, sort of gentle ribbing, gentle teasing.
And is it just me, or they are definitely eating KFC?
Yes,
they have that giant bucket, which is funny because Richard at the beginning is being a snob about like them wanting like burgers and whatnot and nachos at his party, and he's suggesting like all this fancy food as he's eating KFC.
Yep. He wants foie gras as opposed to buffalo wings.
Yes.
And then but I really feel like Richard's kind of the stick in the mud in the family. Like he's like, oh, I'm so good and sweet, and they're like, he says at one point, I think you'll really enjoy Doyle, as they're talking about the ritual eating of Doyle's brains.
Yes.
And of course we have the, oh, it's very, very sweet kind of talk. And then he says the ritual eating of the ex-husband's brains, and then charades. And they're like, oh. And then one of the guys goes, wait, what's that? Charades? Like, and that's when Richard says, no, I think charades will be fun. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we know that Harry was incorrect when she said that they are no longer a brutal race of demons. Clearly that is not the case, and we find out how not the case that is later on. But right now she's in the dark, as is Angel and Doyle and Cordelia.
Well, so he had told her, and she had studied their tribe, and they said that they had given up their non-Western ideals, a non-Western, like more brutal, inhumane,
which is a lie.
and obviously, that is a lie. And anyways, so then we flash over to Cordelia, and she's learning about Doyle, where he learns that Doyle used to be a third grade elementary teacher.
And volunteered at the soup kitchen.
Yep, volunteered at the soup kitchen. And Harry's kind of ribbing Cordelia. She's like, oh yeah, well, that's where he came up with the whole "we are the world" idea. And she's like, I'm kidding about that last part, but that Doyle was, very genuine and sweet, and not the grifter type who knows a guy that we've learned about in Room with a View.
Yes. Although we can still see, I mean, Doyle is still like a very sweet person. He's just not what society would deem as an upstanding citizen any longer. And before we get to that scene, Angel and Doyle has brought Angel with him to Ken's bachelor party. And he's like, oh, I hope that's okay. And right away, Angel picks up that I think it's Ken's brothers or maybe cousins are really shady.
Ben and Nick.
Yeah.
And
they're like whispering to each other alone in a booth, which is weird.
In their own language.
Yep.
And they're definitely, they're staring at Angel while talking to each other in their language, always talking about Angel. and they, go into the back room. Angel follows. He hears Uncle John performing a kind of like blood rite where he like slices his hand with a knife and he's dripping blood and he's saying something. So Angel calls Cordelia and asks to speak to Harry, and he asks her translation in a quote unquote a Etruscan or Aratuscan.
I think it's Aratuscan.
Aratuscan. And he like, says part of what he could remember of the incantation to her, and she's like, okay, I'll go see what I can look up. He's like, it's important. And we've yeah. So we've got these weird vibes. We've got the dancing girl. We've got
yeah, because while all that's happening, Ken is really like hounding Doyle for this blessing. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And getting him liquored up for it.
Yes. Here's your liquor. Here, I really want your blessing. I really want your blessing. Also, can I comment upon at the shower talking about playing pornographic Pictionary?
Mm-hmm.
And Harry turns to Cordelia and says, their ways are not our ways. Their ways are better than our ways if their ways include pornographic Pictionary.
That sounds so boring. How many pictures of like penises can you draw?
Well, I would be thinking more about like, draw this sexual act. Like,
even like I feel like there's like you can just start naming things. Like it's not going to. It's not. It wouldn't be as difficult as like normal Pictionary where there's everything in the world. There's a certain like if there's a certain amount of sex acts that people will be familiar with, because something like that they're not going to have, the most difficult page of the Kama Sutra on there.
Well, why not?
Because no one would be able to guess it.
Also, apparently, their knees bend both ways, so they might have whole different like.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's very true.
Sexual positions. I just think that pornographic Pictionary should totally be part of a bachelorette or bridal shower.
I can't imagine you playing pornographic Pictionary with your mom nor Billy's mom.
Not Billy's mom. I think I probably could with my mom.
Especially if she had a few drinks from the stories of her. But yeah, because she's not with her family. She is with like she's playing that pornographic Pictionary with her soon-to-be in-laws.
Yep,
that's an extra layer.
Yeah, but again, like I really think it depends upon who your in-laws are going to be, because I feel like my sister-in-law could play pornographic Pictionary with my mother, which is her mother-in-law. But like,
yeah,
it really depends on who you're marrying into.
This is very true. Very true. So, yeah, so they're playing, they're about to start playing that, but Cordelia and Harry have pulled out the family library of old texts, and Harry's like, this can't be right. Like, this talks about, basically, she realizes that involves eating like an old love or feasting upon an old love.
Past love.
Yeah. And Cordelia,
love.
Yeah, and Cordelia's like, isn't Doyle your past love? So Harry asks the family, like, so what exactly is going on at this bachelor party? And like an aunt or somebody says, well, they're certainly not going to eat your ex-husband's brains. And everyone's like, don't tell Aunt Kathy anything. She's going to tell everyone.
Well, so again, this is a thing where, they all know this thing is going on. They all know she would disapprove. So they're all hiding it from her. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a healthy way to start any marriage. And yeah, so okay, we've got, flashing back to Angel following Ben and Nick, and Nick like bumps into Angel and then starts fighting with him and saying that he started the fight, and then they throw him out of a second-story window thinking that he's dead. Like, they think that they just killed a guy, no problem. Like, oh, we killed Doyle's friend. Like, And now we're going to use brains.
Yep. Problem solved.
Um,
So Doyle does give his blessing to Ken after the stripper. Ken tells everyone, they push him into this ornate box thing that just has his head exposed. And, you know, Doyle's like, yeah, no, I'm not down for this. They inject him with a painkiller, or like a numbing agent rather. Yep. And he was like, well, I hope you can't. Ken says, I hope you can't feel your head. It would be awful if you could feel us eating your brains. And Doyle's like, I take back the blessing. And Ken's like, well, that's really rude. Like, I don't think I even want to eat your brains now. And his father's like, don't be ridiculous. He can't take back a blessing. You're going to eat his brains.
Yep.
It is.
But not with a shrimp fork, with a soup spoon.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very upset that the brother or cousin, whomever he is, brought out a shrimp fork. And it's like, sorry, our ancient, didn't say what kind of fork or silverware to use. And while this is going on, Angel, you know, busts in, pissed, and is ready to like get vampy with it. And they turn and say, you brought a vampire to my brother's bachelor party? Because that's the problem here.
Yep. And so they start fighting. And at one point, Doyle, you know, actually does demon out while fighting because, you know, he's going to need that extra strength. And then Harry and Cordelia show up and Harry yells at them to stop. And she confronts Richard, and she's like, yeah, like, yes or no, were you going to eat Doyle's brains? And were you going to tell me? And like, and so he says no. He was hoping that it wouldn't come up. That like
omission.
Yep. And so Uncle John says that their rituals are still very important to them. And she's like, please, like, when's the last time you tore yourself away from ESPN to spill the blood of a she-goat? And they're like, oh, she's so racist. And but she, I mean, she has a point. You can't pick and choose which, you know, I want to say cruel rituals you're going to follow. It's kind of like, it pisses me off when certain Christians are like, well, Leviticus says blah, blah, blah about the gays. But like, there's also talk about eating shrimp and wearing polyblends.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, this is something you see, I would say in all religions, you see this, people picking and choosing what they want to follow for whatever reasons. Either because the text doesn't grow well over time, or for their own racist or homophobic reasons. But like, you will always see that in religion after a time, people like picking and choosing.
But I mean, Harry has a very good point. She's like, you knew I would be not okay with this, and you have chosen this barbaric ritual that you want to follow when you're not following all these other rituals. You can't say that you're being orthodox. Like,
you just want to eat my ex-husband's brains. You want him out of the picture.
Brain, yeah. And so then Richard tries to pull like an ultimatum on her, where he says, you know, unless you let me follow this custom, my family will never bless the wedding. And he's expecting her to be like, okay, yeah, eat my ex-husband's brains. Like, and she's like, nope. And so she like takes off the ring and she hands it to him. And it's kind of a sweet moment. And he's like looking at the ring and he's so hurt. And she turns to Doyle and she's like, if you say anything, I will eat your brains myself. Like, but
yep. And that's when we find out about the knee bending.
Yep.
Who wants a bride whose knees only bend the one way anyway?
Yep. And like, yeah, Richard, both times, this actor has played a very like wishy-washy, kind of like annoyingly good character, like,
but not really.
but not really.
Yeah. I would not make the comment that the guy who is enslaving people is a good guy.
No, but he played Ken, who was very like, oh, we have a home for you here, and we see you lost ones, and hope, and yeah.
He's a cult leader. Yeah.
Yep. Anyways, so Angel and Cordelia are watching Doyle hanging out like in the dark, being sad.
Being Angel. Being Angel.
And Cordelia's like, someone should go cheer him up. And Angel like starts to stand up and she's like, no, it's me. And then she goes and she has a very like Cordelia response, which is, just get over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. She is not the best at cheering him up, but she does say some nice things to him. And he was like, you really think that? And she said, I think it, I say it, it's my way.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true. That is the Cordelia way.
We learned that in Earshot that Cordelia thinks it and she says it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you couldn't pick that up from her behavior, when Buffy can read.
We missed the part where Cordelia sees a spiky Doyle and slams in the face with a silver tray platter.
Beats the shit out of him, and then he gets up on Demony, and she's like, "Oh, Doyle, look what they've done to you!" And it was her. No one had it was her.
Yep.
But this episode ends with Doyle getting a vision, and Buffy is fighting some vamps, and now Doyle knows what Buffy looks like from.
Yep. Is it vamps? We can just see her fighting something.
It's the opening scene from the next episode. By her outfit, you can tell.
Okay.
And her hair. I've watched Pangs a lot. Every Thanksgiving, to be exact.
Yes, I feel like the next episode is just going to be Sabrina talking while I go,
writing a love letter to Pangs. So, that's how it ends with Doyle. And because he now knows from seeing Buffy's picture earlier who this woman is.
All right. Well, thank you for just jostling with me for this episode. Mm-hmm. Next week, we are back in the Hellmouth with Sabrina's episode.
Pangs! See you all in the Hellmouth.